forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. We're on a mission. Each one of us shares our own vision. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me.
Saludos, it's your host, Gabe Morales. This will be the last episode covering Nuestra Familia members over the past 6 decades or so. Today, I'll start off with a few more individuals out of, yep, you guessed it, Washington State. There was brothers Victor and Gabriel, and I believe either a younger brother or cousin named Jason. I'm pretty sure all of them were out of San Jose Barrio Horseshoe. I spoke with Victor, aka Big Wino Wilson, in custody many times. He had CDC number D as in David, 94980, and I believe moved to Seattle, Washington after his release in the early 1990s. I showed that he was involved in multiple crimes and was also sent to Washington, D.C., but had parole by the year 2000. I showed that he was housed at the Santa Clara County Jail in 2003 for a robbery, and I believe was returned to CDC for approximately 18 months. His younger brother, Gabe, aka Joker, was also a Northern Structure member in the 1990s, and also was housed in Washington, D.C. in the 1990s. As I recall, they both were living in the Auburn, Washington area when Joker ended up shooting a guy who disrespected him in his neighborhood. And then there was Jason, aka Payaso, who was also a drug dealer and also housed in the King County Jail as well as Washington, D.C. There was Gerald Chato Wilson out of Santa Rosa. I recall this guy very clearly from Seed Facility, New Folsom, in the early 90s when he had D numbers and David, 51285. And he is another individual I remember that was running around with the Bulldogs and a lot of NF and Northern Structure dropouts. Although Chato was never validated as being NF. I believe, however, he was validated as being a dropout of the Northern Structure / Nuestra Raza by the year 2000. Once again, I believe these guys were the predecessors to the New Flowers, and he was prosecuted under Operation Black Widow under BOP number 02540-748. He then came back into custody under A numbers in Alpha, H's in Henry, 7836. I showed that he was housed at Tehachapi in 2012, but has since appeared on several no-good lists. I'll briefly mention Ryan Mitchell Wood, aka Woody, who was a Norteño rapper out of Antioch, which is a city in the East Bay area. Definitely was a Northern Structure associate and viewed as one of the earliest Norteño rappers, and I believe often dealt dope to finance his music aspirations. I show that he was involved in a drive-by in 1996 and was housed at the Contra Costa County Jail. He ended up traveling all over the West Coast, including the G-Spot in Spokane, Washington, as seen here in the year 2006 with some of the Red Boys. He is mentioned in my book, Latino Music, Violent Influences in Latino Rap Today, and I mentioned where I had exposed him and other gangster rappers that were on the internet in the 1990s. And I recall that he sent me a nasty gram saying that he didn't appreciate the negative attention I was giving him. However, I notified him that I was just calling balls and strikes, nothing personal. Word is that Nuestra Familia was trying to tax Woody and all Norteño rappers that were using the movement to make money, and I'm not exactly sure of the circumstances. However, I was told that he committed suicide on March 7, 2007 in the state of Oregon. I'll briefly mention an individual named Bird Yaves out of Broderick, which is an area just west of Sacramento. This guy had C number 32841. And I understand had multiple family members that are associated with the NF. Some that I believe later became New Flowers. There was Fernando Sapo Yanes out of Hayward. This guy was an NF member in the mid-1970s with B number 42258. Understand that he was involved in the homicide of NF member Mike Rodriguez on August 25th, 1973 at DVI. As seen here in this picture, he was still housed at DVI in 1977. However, I'm unsure of what happened to him after that. There was Joaquin Oso Ibarra out of Sanger. He was an old NF member with B number 71314. I recall this individual very clearly also, as we had him at the Violence Control Unit of New Folsom A5 in 1991. And I recall he was involved in a skirmish with the Norteños and Blacks versus the Sureños and Whites out in the concrete yard, whereby several individuals sustained knife wounds. There was Joseph Mojo Ibarra out of Gonzales. I showed that he was a Northern Structure member in the 1990s and apparently was working with Paul Spooky Salcido in a conspiracy to take out longtime NF member Copas Gallegos. However, Mojo backed out and ended up testifying against the organization during Operation Black Widow. Joseph Ibarra ended up going to the WITSEC program after that, and I believe was released from custody by at least the year 2006. There was Richard Puppet Ibarra out of Sacra. He was an NF associate with B number 98045. I've heard stories that he actually cut his cell bars in 1975 to hit Adrian Crackers Vindiola. They show that he was housed at San Quentin in 1983 through 1984, but had dropped out by the year 1985. Then there was the Yepes brothers. I remember there was Tommy, a guy named Oso, and a guy named Youngster. Tommy Yepes was Northern Structure member with C number 66809 and also had C number 26273. And I can't remember the youngster's number, but I remember it was a late D number, and he was a rapper. All of these individuals were out of Oakland and eventually labeled no good. There was Alex Sleepy Irigoyen out of San Juan. He was an NF member in the 1990s with H numbers in Henry, 32421. I show that he was housed at Pelican Bay in the year 2000 and at Pelican Bay Shoe in 2012. He was indicted on that latest RICO case and sent to the BOP under number 63360-509. I show he is presently housed at the ADX in Florence and is not scheduled for release until 2027, when I believe he is scheduled for return to CDC. There was a Rene Huero Zamaripa out of San Juan, but I also show had ties to Visa. This is another individual I remember from C facility in the 1990s when we had quite a few NF and Northern Structure members. I recall that Huero was known as being an NS2 or maestro, a teacher, when he had E numbers in Edward 16350. I believe he was off that E number by the year 2002 and has since appeared on multiple no good lists. There was Eric Zarate, aka Baby G, who was documented as being an NF associate since the year 2000. He was out of Milpitas and I understand operated under John Boxer Mendoza from the year 2000 to the year 2004, but I believe was only documented by CDC as being an soldado by the year 2010. I show he was housed at Corcoran Shoe in the year 2012 and at Tehachapi in 2013. I show he was indicted by the feds, I believe, on BOP number 63368-509. However, I show is currently not in CDC or BOP custody, so he may be presently located at a county jail. There was Jose Changos Zamora, and I'm told he had H numbers in Henry, 13833. I show that he was Nuestra Raza in the 1990s, paroled in 1995, and then came back as a member of the NF. However, ran into some trouble with that organization and became a DO. And finally, we have Javier Flaco Zubiate out of Santa Rosa. He was a Nuestra Raza member in the 1990s with J number 83189 and put in a lot of work, eventually being shipped to Pelican Bay State Prison, where he was NF General Tib Morato's secretary. He was well respected and ended up being made a captain on the overall governing body, being stamped by Tibbs, Corney, and Tex Hernandez. Eventually, he became tired of the NF politics and dropped out and was sent to Mule Creek State Prison. And I show is currently housed at Kern Valley State Prison. And so, I can't believe it. That is the end of our series of Nuestra Familia members over the past 6 decades or so. I hope you enjoyed this series and continue watching more. I'm going to take a little break here as I release some video projects that have been on hold for a while. That I think you'll all enjoy. And then very soon I'll get into a A through Z series of Aryan Brotherhood members as well as Black Guerrilla family members. Some final thoughts on this series and perhaps some words of advice for those willing to listen. The individuals included in this series and past videos all have their own stories. I can only cover so much based on hard documentation that I have of criminal records, arrest histories, incarcerations, gang validations by various agencies, and court documents. But this does not tell the whole story. Each of these individuals have some similarities and some unique differences on how they got involved in these criminal organizations. Once again, I'd advise that you be very careful before you hook up with any of these prison gangs. Although it is not always blood in, blood out, it often is. So think about it before you make that commitment. Are you willing to kill even your own family members? Kill your best friend, or otherwise do them wrong for either personal gain or for the furtherance of the prison gang. It is well known that while politics are supposed to be against the rules, it happens. There's a lot of backstabbing, a lot of individuals starting rumors to undermine other individuals, and just pure greed, often fueled by drug addiction. But once again, life is about choices. I don't think anybody put a gun to their head and told them to use drugs. That was a choice, as well as all the ramifications that come with the use of hard drugs. I'm sure many of them used it to numb the pain they feel inside, and that means their body, minds, and spirits. But listen to this. While we may not always choose our circumstances or situations we get caught up in, we do choose our attitudes and responses to it. And with that, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they, I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. On a mission, each one of us shares our own vision.